turning now to a PG-13 topic and giving you a little heads up so you can send those little ears out of the room. But as always, you can count on Studio 5 to handle it with class. Okay, here we go. Somewhere between work deadlines, school drop-offs, and deciding what's for dinner, again, romance takes the backseat. The spark dims, and your relationship starts feeling more routine than romance. Well, the Studio 5 Romance Renaissance series will help you make romance a constant in your relationship. And my next guest will help you go from burdened to beaming in the bedroom. Studio 5 marriage and family contributor, Dr. Liz Hale. She's here to help us reignite physical affection.
Yes.
Okay,
hi, Amy.
We're jumping in. I'm glad. And this is just a topic I think for many couples stirs up a lot of emotions. Why is it so hard for couples to talk about, do you think?
No, you know, sex itself is pretty straightforward until we add the physical, psychological, cultural, spiritual experiences, influences, right? Then it is really quite complicated. But if we can just uncross those wires, Amy, it's pretty straightforward. Bodies respond in the way they were designed to.
Okay, so you're a John Gottman fan, and there is a phrase from him that you like, the 6-second kiss.
Yeah.
What are we talking about?
Isn't that kind of sweet? You know, it's really the essence of just slowing down and enjoying. I got a 6-second kiss this morning, Amy. It was so great. Oftentimes, my husband loves a peck. I can't stand a peck. And it makes such a difference. It makes you feel kind of seen and known and loved. It's very sweet. And then usually what's followed up by that is a 20-second hug, right, of Gottman. And it's really all about oxytocin and getting that blood flowing that says, oh, wow, we have a deepened bond and we have a trust between us. And it's really quite sweet. But as soon as you start counting, like 1001, 1002, we're missing the point. The whole point is to slow down and to really enjoy each other. And I have a new acronym to KISS, and that is just keep it super simple.
Yeah, and maybe it'll just become muscle memory. You won't have to count. You'll just kind of know when it's at least 6 seconds.
Yeah, you'll just linger longer, right? that's really the whole
I like that.
Yep.
Okay, so let's lean into the deeper side of intimacy, because you say you really feel like sexual intimacy is something we should lean into, not avoid.
Yeah, start with sex first. Sex is first, right? Sex is really the answer, because sometimes what happens with bedroom burdened couples is we talk about everything but sex. So we'll talk about the communication, and even as marriage therapists, back in my younger years, I made this mistake as well, that, you know, if we can communicate outside the bedroom will take care of itself, and that's just not the case. So the beaming bedroom couples, they start with intimacy. They hit it head on, no pun intended, but they decide, and together they talk about the things that are co-created, things that they're both doing, things that they would like to have happen. And it really builds a super delightful bond between them. And if you can talk about intimacy in the bedroom, that sets a precedent for talking about how we're going to change the living room and what color we're going to paint the wall.
You said just because you have good communication outside the bedroom doesn't mean you'll have it inside. No. But you're almost saying we will have the opposite. If we have good sexual intimacy, then we will have good communication outside the bedroom.
Yes, isn't that quite lovely? This darling couple I work with, they came in for a session, and the night before, they had a sexual interlude that did not go well. It started out great, but it didn't last. Okay, so what happened was they were out to dinner with friends, and they came home and they were laughing about the night. The kids were away with grandparents. It was just the perfect setup, right? She said, would you please help me undo my boots? And then it went south, and where it went south was up here. She started to take too long in the bathroom. He said, oh, she's really not that into me. We're not going to do anything tonight. And she's looking over at him in his dad pajamas, laying on top of the cover, saying, oh, he's not that interested in me. So they both really took a chance to say, what would they do differently if they had a do-over the next night? And I hope that they did. She would do things differently, and she'd look over at him. She'd teasingly say, you know what? I think honey, you have too many clothes on over there. And she also would be very straightforward with her desires, like, oh, I would love a fire in the fireplace. I would love a hot tea. I would love my hot pad turned on. It just set him up to please her and to set her up for that beautiful night. And he said, I said, what would you do differently? He goes, I would be under the covers without the dad pajamas on. That was pretty sweet.
Yeah, it gives them a chance to actually look at it and analyze it.
Yes.
You also say that couples, easily intimate couples don't take things personally.
Yeah,
But a lot of times that is very personal. So how do you make sure that that doesn't affect your self-confidence?
Yeah, well, I think, when we're talking about something so intimate as sex itself, is that I think we have to keep in mind that I have this red beanbag heart-shaped pillow, Amy, in my office, and sometimes I'll toss it to a partner and I'll say, you're holding your partner's heart in your hands, so be gentle with it. And especially when we're talking about the things that we co-create, what part belongs to me, and what I'd like to do differently, I think hopefully we're going to be all ears when we take that conversation very tenderly, right? And just really kind of enjoy it. There's nothing to take personally. Your partner's talking about themselves and how they tick and what they would like. So why would we not be all ears?
Okay, let's talk about being kind, because you say that there is something different between being kind and being nice.
Yeah, there is. Being nice is you can't really handle the truth. And that means that we can't really handle intimacy. Being kind, however, is I'm going to hold your heart gently, right?
Yeah,
like that red
like
heart-shaped pillow. Yes, and I'm going to really show up with honesty. And I think there's a difference between vulnerable honesty and brutal honesty, right? And watching our tone. Is my tone soft? Is it gentle? Is it loving? Or is it harsh? And is it resentful? And is it cruel, mean? Tone just speaks volumes, I think, when we're trying to talk about something as tender as sexual intimacy.
Yeah. And I think most people know that. They just need to remember it.
And how we come across. Yeah,
but this one you have to
powerful.
explain, because you said receiving can be better than giving.
It's better to receive than give. That's absolutely right. One of my colleagues and friends, Laura Doyle, who I love, she's quite a relationship coach just for women, but she says there's one thing that every woman should give her man, for Valentine's Day. You want to guess what it is?
What?
Nothing.
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 Don't
That
give
might
any...
be extreme, but just maybe hang in there for just a minute. So a woman's femininity is based on receptivity, receiving. And a man's masculinity, I can't even say the words, is about giving.
Okay.
So, boy, I tell you, when I give my husband a heart-shaped box of chocolates for Valentine's Day, it's okay. But what makes him really happy is when he gives me a box of chocolates and I'm giddy over it.
Yes.
He loves making me happy. Men love to make their women happy. So if you think about that versus, quid pro quo, like I give you a gift, you give me a gift, we're kind of even. Doesn't really get to be the hero. So think about that.
Okay, you heard it from Liz.
Yep.
Ladies, you don't need to hit this. You don't need to hit this door today. Okay, you have a podcast, the Stronger Marriage Connection podcast.
Yes.
We can just get that wherever we
it's so fun.
get our podcast.
True, Apple, Spotify, even YouTube. It's really quite fun. We'd love to have you.
Well, there you are, Dr. Dave and Dr. Liz, so people can tune in. Thank you, Liz.
Thank you, Amy. Happy Valentine's Day.
Okay, kids can come back in the room now. Thank you.
Yes, they can.